Hello, everyone. I hope your day, night, life is going well and is bringing you joy at the moment. Um, it was recommended to me that I speak about a topic regarding type 1 diabetes that's a little more in your face. A topic that a lot of people typically like to avoid speaking about. And that topic would be the complications of type 1 diabetes. And to start with, I'm sure if you guys all look through YouTube and whatnot, you'll find many people talking about the struggles, the not so great aspects of type 1 diabetes. Guess it's my turn? Sure. Um, the darker side of type 1 diabetes. Let's go way towards the end. Um, Type 1 diabetes is a life-threatening disease. Yes, your life can end because of type 1 diabetes. And that's not to scare you. It's just to bring awareness to the situation. Whether it's floating around back here, or whether you've forgotten, whether you're taking care of a child, and I know that's scary, parents. I apologize if this freaks you out, but it's a reality that we have to deal with. And before I go forward with this, consider this regarding death. Human beings are energetic. We're energetic beings existing on this plane. And if you look up the definition of energy, it could only be transformed. It can't be destroyed. What does that say about a person who decides to leave this world, whether intentional or not? Their energy is just transformed. And I think, in my personal belief, that they are never truly gone. If we're all atoms in the universe, all atoms and quarks and whatever subatomic structure and definitions that science can define is nothing but energy. And that energy only changes over time and over distances. And regarding death, it's an aspect of life that a lot of people do not like to acknowledge because it's scary. We don't know. We don't know the fact of the matter of what happens to matter once our hearts stop beating. In relation to type 1 diabetes, that fact of the matter and its intensity, it's the fear of it is increased because we don't know what happens. Let alone, we don't always know how the diabetes will affect us. To the farthest extreme, yes, a person's heart can't stop beating because of type 1 diabetes. And like I said, a friend of mine suggested that I be in your face about it. This is me being in your face. I'm uncomfortable with it, but I have to talk about it because it's true. I have known friends of mine, really great people, and many of my diabetic family will know some of them that I am speaking of. Wonderful people to work with, wonderful people to be around. Unfortunately, they did leave this world. Their energy has transformed, and we no longer physically see them here. That was due because of type 1 diabetes. Several of them had low sugar levels and were untreated and decided to transform. I would love to state all their names. I don't know if that's a good thing or allowed. I don't think that's allowed, so I'll leave it at that. But let's take a step back from the extreme, not so extreme, but still kind of difficult to deal with. And that's the complications developed from type 1 diabetes. And to all doctors who are treating diabetics, I have to be honest, scare tactics don't always work. They didn't work with me. And doctors tried. I had one doctor say that if I kept doing what I was going to do, or kept doing what I was doing, I wouldn't live past 18. I reached 19. Doctor said if I kept doing what I was doing, I wouldn't live past 25. I reached 26. That doesn't necessarily discredit, but that does change the mindset of a type 1 diabetic. I have other friends who have been told this many times, and yet they're still around, thankfully. Oh, thank God. They're still around. And often it requires a scary situation in order to knock someone back on track. To be honest, my health didn't improve dramatically. Literally, my health got way better once I started dialysis. And see, doctors warned me about dialysis, but over the years, that scare tactic didn't really apply. A two-sentence story about kidney failure doesn't help a child or a teenager or a young adult, or even in many cases an old adult, wrap their minds around that complication. All it does is say, hey, something bad's going to happen. Well, something bad could happen the moment you step outside. It's kind of one of those things where you know it's there, but don't worry about it. And the doctors were right. Because of my health, I ended up on dialysis. And dialysis requires a lot more than what some doctors explain. You have to stay away from certain foods, high potassium, high phosphorus foods. You can't eat those. I used to eat 6 bananas a day as a child, and I was only allowed to eat like maybe 1 a day. Actually started hitting a friend of mine because he tried to steal my banana. I know that sounds weird, but let's try to be adults here. I wasn't allowed more than 2 liters of fluid a day. That includes soups or foods. You know, I love chicken noodle soup. Who doesn't? Right? Mushroom soup, really good stuff. But I had to count that as fluids on top of the cup of coffee, whatever smoothie I drank, whatever juice drinks I drank. Every ounce of fluid I had to limit to under 2 liters. If not, I started to swell. And that's a complication that people need to be aware of. Loss of eyesight. I know friends of mine that have had diabetes for more than 50 years, and in their later stages in life have lost sight of both eyes. Me personally, can't see out of my left eye. If I were to close my right eye, I lose sight of the camera. Loss of toes, kind of a common one. Not as dramatic as dialysis or loss of eyesight, but it's still a complication. And again, I'm not here to scare anyone. I'm not here to convince people to take better care of themselves, because I technically have no right to walk around saying, you better take care of your diabetes. Because I wasn't capable of taking care of my own diabetes. I have no right to say that to anybody. What I am saying is, these complications can arise, whether it's now, whether it's later. What I ask you to do is research, find out what will happen. Again, there's no circle, no line drawn where if you cross this line, you end up with all these complications. Or if you stay on that side of the line, you'll never have these complications. There is no line. Everyone's so different in how they cope with diabetes, how they manage diabetes, and how diabetes affects them themselves. It's just too different. And for doctors, I hope you understand that in order to work with a person to help improve their lifestyle as a diabetic, learn how they work as opposed to threatening complications. It's just a suggestion. By all means, if you feel that a scare tactic will help a person improve themselves, and a scare tactic is what they require, sure, scare them. Take them on a field trip and take them to a dialysis center. Have them watch other people sit there. And let them sit there for 15 minutes and just watch what they do for 4 hours on end. 4 or 5 plus however long. I was on dialysis for 4 hours at a time, 3 times a week. It gets kind of boring. But what I do ask is that you learn what you require. Learn how to manage yourself. Learn what works for you. Pay attention to the things that spike your sugar level or drop your sugar level. And many of my diabetic friends know this. You know, this is more geared towards possibly new diabetics or people that are just curious about diabetes and want to learn more regarding maybe a family member or friend. You know, learn what works for people. Some people require a shoulder to cry on in order to deal. Some people require smack on the back of the head. Learn what people need. Diabetics, learn what works for you. Because these complications, these in your face, you can possibly die. Yeah, it's a scare tactic. Yeah, it's true. It's not the greatest thing to deal with. But that's me just being in your face. Now being in your heart, that requires a little more compassion. I understand. It's scary. It's not an easy thing to deal with. Find that light within you. Find that inner guidance to manage what you can manage. Find that path to a better health. If you need to prioritize, prioritize. But your life is your life. You do what you want. I'm not here to condemn. My only goal is to uplift. May the light guide you, and I wish you well. Like, share,